All right, today we're going to talk about why you're overthinking your UI UX, okay? What happens time and time again when you see people thinking about their startups, they think too much and they don't do enough. So let's start doing, right? First things first. Oh, I should use this thing. Technology. Nope. There we go. All right. So, there are very few known techniques that can accurately and consistently predict good UI UX. There are very few techniques that can accurately and consistently predict good UI UX. Now, I'm telling you this because you're going to see book after book, pamphlet after pamphlet, talk after talk, conference after conference of rules and mantras and tips on how to build good UI UX, and there's only one tip that consistently works well, and that is to test it yourself. Why? Because we're building new products. We're working on new things. It's really hard to predict these things. The best people in the world still fail, right? You've seen it all the time, Google Wave. You've seen Apple products fail, right? Those are brilliant UI UX people, and it still fails. And the reason is because you can't predict these things. So, what's a better way of going after it? Well, let's talk about some things that we do think work well. These are some of the commonalities you see in these talks, these pamphlets, these conferences. First, beauty comes second. Beauty comes second. So what does that mean? Here we have a few screenshots of some websites you may know of, Reddit, Craigslist, Amazon. I think we'd all agree that they're not the best looking websites, right? But these websites have billions of page views. Millions of users, right? So what are they doing right? It's not like Reddit was the originator and it came, no, there was Dig before, right? Everyone was on Dig, and then everyone moved to Reddit. And now Reddit's this huge platform, this huge community of individuals on this arguably, I mean, not even arguably, it's a pretty shitty UI, right? I mean, look at it yourself. It hasn't changed in years, okay? So it's really not always about beauty. So you see beauty, you see these translucencies, these beautiful buttons, icons. Yes, those matter. Those make a difference. Are they the most important? No. Second, users resist change. Users resist change. Now, you've seen this yourself, right? Every time Facebook changes the UI, how many statuses do you see in your newsfeed? Oh, this is awful. I want to go back to the old Facebook. Petition, there's like 100,000 signatures. We'll get Facebook to change it back, right? You see that all the time. What about on Dig? How many of you guys remember Dig? Good. It's better than usual. So Dig sort of went south, and I'll tell you the reason why. Back a few years ago, Dig was the most popular social news reading site. Reddit was 5th on that list. It was pretty far down there. Dig had quite a few users and quite a lot of interactivity. And what happened was Dig released a new update called Dig 3.0. And what Dig 3.0 did was to overlay this beautiful interface, right? All these new features. And they scaled things down. They simplified it. They made it look brilliant, right? What happened? Everyone from Dig moved to Reddit in that 1 week. Reddit's traffic spiked up because people said, we hate all these changes. We hate all these things. We're going to somewhere else that's a lot more fun, right? And won't change on us. And that is why Reddit has not changed to this day. If you go meet Alexis Ohanian, he's one of the co-founders of Reddit. He went to the same university I did. I spoke to him personally on this. He said the reason we didn't change it was because when Dig changed it, everyone left. So people clearly want to stick with a UI that's familiar with them. So we kept it that way, right? Let's not change things all at once. Let's do small, tiny iterations. So you see Facebook do this now, right? They scale out changes to a certain population, right? And then they do change one thing at a time, so you barely notice. So what's a better example? eBay. The original eBay site looked like this. It looked like this. It had these yellow divs, these tables with this pale yellow background, right? Funny story, when this background was changed, the people at eBay wanted to change that yellow background to a white background. And what happened was eBay's inbox was full of complaints, full of users saying, this looks horrendous, this looks ugly. eBay's like, oh, we took a page out of Google's book, white space, right? No, people hated it. So what did eBay do? eBay, one of the engineers at eBay wrote a script to gradually change the color from yellow to white over the time span of a year. Right? So every day it just went 1 meter up on the brightness scale and nobody noticed, right? And they finally got the changes to white at the end of 1 year. Third, make users feel smart. Make users feel smart. Now this is pretty obvious when you see this all the time too. I haven't really liked it. I haven't enjoyed it that much because, of course, you want to make users feel smart, right? You don't want to assume they're dumb. You want to make them feel smart. So this is an interesting example, right? You see two salt shakers. One is beautiful and modern and sleek, and the other is more conventional. The first one, it's pretty hard to tell which one is the salt shaker, which one's the pepper shaker, right? So it's more, in my opinion, not about how to make users feel smart, but to prevent users from feeling like they're really stupid, right? Which is taking the pepper shaker and putting it as if it was salt, right? Fourth, familiarity. Familiarity. So this is a recent design trend. I think you guys have been seeing it a lot. Is this slide-out menu. There are tons of libraries being built for mobile apps, for websites, that basically hide the menu away until you really need it. So you see it in Facebook, you see it in Gmail, you see it in YouTube, right? This design trend is really starting to perk up, but it didn't used to be that way. The original Facebook app had 9 icons and a home screen such that you could quickly see exactly which topic to dive into, right? And then they decided to change things. So Facebook was one of the first companies to start using the slide-out menu, and they were soon followed by Google and Path. And what this means is that you should really take advantage of the fact that people have already learned how to use certain UI and UX tools, right? They already know how to interact with the slide-out menu, right? So that's what people say when you hear don't reinvent the wheel, use familiarity. This is what they mean. They say if you want to speed through the learning curve, if that UI interaction isn't essential to your app, why not ride on the backs of the titans, right? Why not ride on the backs of tools that people are already used to? All right, so enough of that. Those are the commonalities. How does this relate to startups? Well, let's talk about timing and parallelizing. One of the most important things for a startup is to move fast and to move efficiently. So how do you do that? Well, while you're planning your app, while you're building your app, you want to make sure your marketing person is doing marketing, you're acquiring your users, you're getting ready for testing, right? You're raising the right money, you're planning such that everybody has something to do. That's one of the biggest weaknesses we see in startups is sometimes you get so caught up in the engineering that the other parts falter, right? So how do you do this? How do you plan to time and parallelize while trying to build a beautiful, beautiful product? Well, 4 steps. Narrow, build, test and collect, and simplify. First step, narrow your scope. This is the only thinking we're going to do in UI, UX, right? This is the only thinking you have to do before you start designing a product. It's to narrow down your scope. We have 6 reasons here. 1, it identifies a narrow band of target users, right? We know that, right? We want to see exactly who this product is going to be for. Now, why is that important? Well, 1, it speeds up development time, right? We're not wasting time on features we don't need because we know exactly who it's for. The next thing is it guides our testing, which is really important, right? When we want to release it, who are we releasing it to? What are we tracking? What are we measuring later? Right? It's a lot of time wasted if you don't narrow it down to exactly what you need. The third thing is give marketing individuals early insight into how they can acquire their first users. So when you first release that product, okay, it's out there, it's ready. You've already put it on Hacker News. You've already posted it some blogs and stuff. But what do you do after that, right? After all that media dies, how do you get your first users? Well, you go back and you see who did you target to start with. Where did you narrow your scope down to so specifically such that you can find them? You can find the forums where they're at. You can find the meetups that they go to, right? Those are the reoccurring user acquisition strategies, not just the big blasts on media, right? Not the tech crunches and those kinds of things. Next is it narrows down the number of variables for testing. So we're going to talk about some testing tools later, some tracking analytics tools later, right? You don't want too much data. You want to know exactly what metrics are most important for the success of your startup and your app, right? And the last thing is it saves a ton of money. Now, it doesn't save money necessarily literally, right? but it saves a lot of time, which saves a lot of money. And we see this all the time. This is one of the biggest mistakes some Techstars companies make, is in those 3 months they focus all wholeheartedly on a huge set of features rather than focusing on 1 to 2 things and nailing it out of the park. That's another piece of advice you hear all the time. If you ever meet a VC, you ever meet an angel investor, one of their biggest and most frequent tips of advice is focus on one thing and hit it out of the park, right? Even when it's not relevant. So let's talk about a few companies that did that really narrowed their scope down. They knew exactly what features to build before even knowing if this would be a company, right? Twitter, Amazon, Google. Does anyone know how Twitter was started? No? Twitter was started as sort of a game, a social experiment, right? Basically what happened was in this office place, it was designed such that you could text to a certain number, and that number would upload it to this TV screen in the center of the office place. So you could see exactly what people were texting. That's where the 140-character limit comes from, is because that was the text message limit. Right? So that's how Twitter started. It was just a fun, trending thing. And that's all he built Twitter on. That's all Twitter was built on. From then on, they scaled and they said, okay, we'll keep doing text. How long did it take for photos to come? How long did it take for Vine videos to come? Media, links, forever. What they focused on was one tiny thing, microblogging, right? And they didn't even know it was microblogging. They found something that worked, that people really enjoyed, and they kept focusing on that. Once they nailed that out of the park, that's when they introduced more features. That's the momentum. All right, what about Amazon? What did Amazon start with? Books. Books. Amazon's logo changed too. Do you know why there's an arrow in Amazon? You know what that arrow is for? A to Z. Everything from A to Z, right? That's what it was changed to. Amazon started with books because it's something that they were comfortable with. They said, okay, books got to come online. We got to start selling them online. Let's do it through this site. Crushed it with books. Moved on from there. And last thing, Google. We all know Google started with search as a research project by PhD students, right? It was just an interesting problem to be solved. And then they uncovered the true interesting aspects of Google. So what else? Do you guys know any other startups that started really, really simply? 1 or 2 features. Yeah? Flickr. How did Flickr start? Sorry.
It was started as photo storage or image storage for a game.
Really? I didn't even know that. Interesting. What else? Salesforce. How so?
I think they started to develop a tool for sales professionals to manage the pipeline.
There you go. Yeah?
Dropbox.
Dropbox. How did they start?
Just want to sync my folder.
There was no sharing. There was none of that. It's just backup, instant backup, right? Now you use Dropbox for everything, right? There's so many other use cases for it. So you see this all the time, and now companies have been so focused on this principle that they literally build only one thing. Recent example, Vine. What do you do on Vine? 6-second videos, that's it. Nothing else. Granted, it had a great platform to launch on, but it's growing virally as well. Right? It's just one feature that they found would work well. So how do you actually do this? It's good to talk about this and look at examples of successes. There's tons of failures, I'm sure, too. Right? How do you actually do this? Well, here's one technique that we use that has worked really well. And it's about trying to mold your product or your idea into a tweet. It's really, really helpful in narrowing down the scope of exactly what you're doing. So you see this in the Techstars application. What we do is we ask for your one-liner business summary, right? And it's essentially what this is. It's taking your idea and boiling it down to 3 or 4 phrases, right? So something we hear all the time is, okay, well, who's your target market? And the answer we get is, oh, we don't have a target market. This is breakthrough new thing. There's nothing like it. There's no market yet. We're going to create a new market with it, right? Hear that all the time. Well, that's all fine and good. And granted, there are cases when that happens, right? But the point of this, the point of bringing it to a target market that you really know and something that you're familiar with is to give the person who's listening the familiarity of something to associate it with, right? You've been working on this product for a really long time, and the reason why we ask you to condense it down into these words that we can understand is so that we can quickly understand what's going on and then read more, right? So all these catchphrases like, oh, it's a breakthrough new market, they're great, but you lose me. You confuse me. So we've laid out this template here. It's by all means, this is not a strict template, but it's designed to help guide you. So blank is a blank that allows blank to blank, right? Your product, whatever your name is a general relatable tool, right? General relatable tool. This is what we're talking about, right? Even though it's not exactly like something that exists, relate it to something that we know, right? So you see this all the time. Boatbound. Have you heard of the startup Boatbound? So Boatbound is, and this is how they say it on the site, is the Airbnb for boats. You know instantly what Boatbound is, right? Although they've associated themselves with a giant and they gave themselves this own grandiose claim that, okay, we are going to be like Airbnb one day, you know immediately what it does, right? Boatbound is the Airbnb for boats, right? So we have the second part of the phrase here. That allows blank to blank. So we put in two specific things here. First blank is your target users. But what's more specific about those target users is I want you to think of two really specific adjectives for those target users. Two really specific adjectives. So why? I want you to unfurl the layers of this onion, right? And actually think about what specific part of those target users are you really targeting, right? So a while ago, I was working on an app that was basically allowed you to find out what events were trending in your area, what events were coming up in popularity, right? So the way I would do this is, it was called Hype. Hype is a trending list that allows young, active teenagers to find out what's going on in their city. Young, active teenagers, right? Not just teenagers, young, active ones. Allows you to target it in. Okay, what about, let's do an example of, somebody yell at a startup. Let's do this together. Something really simple. Give me an interesting company. Anyone? Uber. Good one. Uber is a what? Let's yell out some words. Uber is a taxi hailing app. Good. That allows what? What's our target for Uber? Is Uber a cheap cab company? No. Right? That's not their target market. Convenience, right? Looking for convenience, right? Drunk. Desperate, right? So it's more about the convenience. It's more about getting there right now, right? Than it is about a taxi. So that's what we started out with, a taxi hailing app, and we drill down to convenience, right? So this is just one of those templates that you can use to help try and narrow down exactly what your product is, right? In a really short sentence. So I encourage you to try this if you're working on something of your own. I know some of you are. Try and narrow it down to 140 characters and make this work, right? You have to do it when you do media and marketing for your startup eventually anyways. You have to come up with a tweet that you want the blogs to retweet. So a lot of people go through this exercise forcibly. But it's a really, really powerful way of immediately letting somebody know what you're working on. So why is this important? This is great for your product. How is this important for UI, UX? Well, it's important because we know exactly who we're talking to, right? We know exactly who we're talking to. So next really helpful thing is personas. I'm sure some of you have heard of personas before. Now with personas, what we do is we define an actual person. We give a name, an age, an occupation that fits into the use case of this app, right? A name, an age, an occupation that fits the use case of this app. So we have Alan. Alan is a 29-year-old investment banker, and he's very drunk on a Friday night. That's Alan, right? Alan is the perfect user for Uber. And we will use Alan as a reference point whenever we talk through the UI, UX. When we go through the storyboard, we don't have to say, oh, what about users who are like this? No, we've bucketed it into Alan. And we will always talk about Alan, right? So that's sort of how you segment off your target user populations, right? Whenever you talk through your storyboards and your whatever wireframes you choose to do, relate it back to these personas so that you're sticking to exactly that narrow scope we talked about earlier. Cool? All right. Last thing is you want to actually check yourself. So I'm not going to go into the details of how to build a storyboard and how to wireframe. There's tons and tons of resources for that. What I think is more important is that you use the storyboard effectively. So we talk about using your personas. And the second thing is identifying and cutting these long trees and branches. So one of the most useful things to do is to take these screenshots that you've built, these wireframes that you've made, and line them up in exactly how a user gets from one function to the next function, right? One function to the next function. What you'll see is that the branches and the tree trunk will get longer and longer and longer. And you want to see if that main function that you want to get to is much longer than any of the other functions, right? You want to cut down, you want to trim the length of those branches so that it's really, really easy and fast to get to that main function you're talking about. So for Uber, the main point of Uber is to hail a car. You want the fewest number of steps in between to hail that car. So what does Uber do? They have all sorts of really neat functionality to quickly get your credit card number into the app. In fact, you can scan your card now with Uber. You can just take a picture of your card and it pulls the numbers in. So it doesn't slow you down, because the more steps you take, the more people they lose, and you'll see this right drop in your analytics, right? That's why a lot of companies now are moving away from saying log in with Facebook. So you lose a lot of people. That's another frame in the middle, just to get to one step, right? And a lot of people are annoyed by it. Why put up that wall when you don't need it yet? Get people invested in it, get them using it, get them building up points, a reputation in some sort of game, and then say, oh, by the way, you might lose it if you don't log in. Give them a reason to log in. Don't force them to do it. And lastly, it's to identify dead ends. Now, this is has been really helpful for us at Avalanche. Sometimes you just get so much into the weeds of things in designing the app that you forget parts of the app. Forget what happens if I click cancel, but I haven't selected anything. Or what happens if I get somewhere and then internet connection drops, right? We haven't thought about that. Where are our catches? What happens with all of the tiny little features? Those are the tiny things that you see when you lay it out in a storyboard. And it's so important that in iOS's case, they've actually built a storyboarding feature, right? So you can actually see how it interacts. You can think it through as you develop it. So next, stop. That's it. No more thinking. That's all you got to think through. I don't want to hear any more about, okay, and then we did this, and then we thought through this, and made it really beautiful, and the colors have to be like this. No, none of that matters. Next thing is to build. Speed is king. Speed is king. Each one of these super successful companies, and even some of the companies you haven't heard of, one of the biggest advantages is that they get to the market first and they dominate, right? And then they start changing and adding features. Okay? Speed is king in this world. I mean, honestly, that's all it is. Get it out there and get the answer right the first time. You're not going to guess it. 100% of the time, you're going to be wrong in the UI, UX part. You're not going to guess it. So you might as well make an educated guess so you're not too far off and just get it in people's hands. So let's talk about real tools you can use to do this. Again, this is all software. How can you be really fast? So a lot of apps nowadays are moving to HTML5. I'll give you the quick rundown, pros and cons. Pros, HTML5 is cross-platform. You don't have to design for Android specifically, iOS specifically, web specifically. You can have all of it on one platform, right? Con of HTML5 is you lose performance and you lose a lot of interactivity. So there are frameworks like PhoneGap, for example, that allow you to access the native controls in a mobile device, right? But you do lose a lot of the scrolling effect and the nice little gestures and the swipe and the accelerometer responsiveness, those sorts of things. But in the case of a content app, which you've seen, Facebook was an HTML5 app up until about 8 months ago. It was HTML5. Well, and that's the reason why a lot of people didn't like it, right? It's the reason why a lot of people said it sucked. But it got it out there for them to be able to shape the native app, right? Which is a lot more of an investment. A lot more web developers out there than there are iOS and Android developers. 99 Design, I'm sure you guys have heard of this. It's just a really quick graphic logo design service. A lot of people get really caught up in designing the perfect logo. It has to look great, and I want the message to be good and the motto. None of that matters. Look at Snapchat. Look at their logo. Look at their color scheme. Okay? It's honestly just not a very good-looking app. Their valuation most recently was $800 million. Each of the founders has cashed out $10 million into their pocket. Regardless of what the exit is, they have $10 million in their pocket. Logo, doesn't really matter. Just get it done, get it out there, 99 designs, okay? Third, Keynotopia. I found this tool really useful for me. I worked in consulting for a little while, and so I was really good with PowerPoint and Keynote, right? What's really great about Keynotopia, it has all the native elements of iOS and Android and even web, like Bootstrap. It has all those as graphics that you can just drag and drop into the PowerPoint and then add actions to go through the slides, right? Another really easy way to say, look, it's working, it's doing something, right? It's something you can put in people's hands and show right then and there. You have no technical skill involved, but you get added customizability that you want because you're familiar with a tool like PowerPoint. I think it's better than tools like Balsamiq, which is next. Balsamic's a little bit too cartoony for me, a little bit too, like, it looks very sketch when you're using it. I think Keynotopia gives you that good balance of interactivity, makes it real for somebody. So when we work with founders, a lot of times we say, okay, let's drop it into PowerPoint. It'll take you one night to do it. Let's see what people think of this. Does it make any sense? Before we start laying it out in iOS and Android, let's just put it into PowerPoint first, okay? All right, after that, after you built things and you figured out your wireframes, and now you got to distribute. TestFlight and Hockey app are used for mobile apps a lot. Definitely check them out. TestFlight is definitely at the forefront of this. Allows you to distribute your apps without being on the App Store, so you don't have to wait 2 weeks before submitting your app every time. You just put it out there and ask what people's feedback is. Put it out there, ask what people's feedback is, right? There's no 2-week cycle. There's no approval process. You just do it straight from the app, TestFlight. Hockey app is similar, but it's a custom build on your own server. So if you install it on your own computer, you can distribute apps from your own Mac server or your own Linux box, whatever you need. And then Heroku, we're all, I'm sure, familiar with, or you've heard of it. Heroku is just basically like Amazon EC2, but smaller and easier to work with. It allows you to basically distribute web apps pretty easily with tons and tons of neat plugins. So, more importantly, last, collect. So you've built, you've distributed, you put it out there, you want to collect, right? I want to know how to build the UI UX. I'm not going to tell you things like, oh, and you should put buttons here, and you should put, no. I'm going to tell you should collect the data and figure it out on your own, and I'm going to give you ways in which you can figure it out, right? Collect. One of the biggest things that have come out recently that's really changing the way things are going in analytics is this new startup called Heap. It was invested in by a couple of YC partners. I'm not sure if it was in Y Combinator, but Heap essentially allows you to drop in one line of code into your app, whether it be a mobile app or a web app. And what it does is it collects data on everything. It collects every single button press, every single time in, time out, every single unique page visit, all those metrics all at once. So it's not like you have to put a tracker on this button and on this button and on this button and track what the through rate is on those. That gets a little complicated. When you first release this thing, you want to use something like Heap because you don't know exactly what you want to measure. You have a good idea, but you don't want to have to go retroactively and update the app to add in new tracking stuff, right? So Heap is really clever in that it just tracks everything. And when you go on the console, you can actually say, oh, I like these two functions, but I want to see what happened here, but I didn't put any tracking on it. And you can, because it's tracking everything. Second and third, Google Analytics and Flurry. Google Analytics, I'm sure you've heard of. Flurry is for mobile apps. It's basically the Google Analytics for mobile apps. We use this for a lot of mobile apps that we've worked on. It's very common for Techstars companies to use Flurry. Again, because you're measuring how people are using things, right? And the last two are inbound marketing, HubSpot, MailChimp. They're mailing list tools so you can see how people are interacting with your product. So in the case that you're working as a services company or you're providing a program, a lot of people use this. So Startup Institute is a great example of this. Startup Institute is run out of Boston, helps teach people how to align their passion with their profession. And they do a lot of their tracking via HubSpot. So every time you click a link in a Startup Institute newsletter, they know exactly who's clicked it, what links people are going to, how they're interacting, right? That's their product. Their product is users and people and engagement. They're collecting data on it and improving it. You should see Startup Institute's first newsletter. Awful. Not the right information. Nothing in there was interesting. And now they slowly know what people like to click, right? That's a really impressive technique, and blogs have used this a lot recently, right? Have you heard of BuzzFeed, right? It's come out. BuzzFeed has basically taken advantage of the fact that people love top 10 lists or top X number lists, right? It's just something that people found out about blogs through analytics tracking is for some reason when you say the top 5 ways your startup can be successful. Be like, oh, click it, right? Rather than how your startup can be successful. The turnover rate is incredible because it's so tangible. It's, oh, there's 5 things here. So a lot of blogs do this now, and that's why you see this. The top 10 downloads of the week. You see that on Lifehacker all the time. Engadget does this notoriously, right? You see these things all the time. And so people are taking advantage of it. So you would be foolish not to be tracking this stuff on your own, right? All right, let's get a real example. So this is an app from a long time ago now, 4 years ago. This app I made in college for basically allowing you to track when the next bus was arriving. So this is at the University of Virginia. We had some buses come around, and you didn't want to stand in the rain, and you wanted to see when the next bus was coming, right? So there's GPS trackers on it. How can I get that data? So I made an app. I made a guess as to what features people would want. So I added all this cool functionality like, oh, you can press search nearby and use GPS to find the 10 stops closest to you, right? And there's a map, and you can see exactly where the stop is, and you can put favorites and recents lists, and all this stuff. All this stuff. And my advisor told me, he said, why don't you put analytics in it so you can see what people are actually doing, right? So the app, it took off. It did well, right? It had like 2,000 or so active daily users, which was great. I was very happy, right? But little did I know the actual numbers behind it. So let's go to this one first. So here's a list. Analytics data. This is all Google Analytics data. This is on early Android before Google Analytics even supported Android. Of all the features of this bus app, so there's a bunch of features here. See favorites, list click, recents, browse, nearby, map, search. I spent 1 entire week programming search into my app so that you could search the bus stop and figure out when the next bus, like where that stop is. This is search. The bottom, can't even see it, right? I spent a long time trying to get the GPS to work for map and nearby click. Second and third least popular functions in the app. I thought those were all like, oh, this is so convenient. You can figure out what stops are right nearby. No. The most popular function until I didn't implement favorites and recents until later. The most popular function was browse an alphabetical list of all the bus stops in your area. By far. What? That was it. That's what I'm telling you. You cannot guess this. You cannot guess this shit. I'm telling you, it will not work. Just put it out there and measure and measure and measure, and you will find this on your own. So after doing that, I found out a lot of people just go to the same stops all the time. It was very obvious the people who were using the phone here would always go to these 4 stops. People using the phone here would always go to these 4 stops, which is obvious to think of. So I implemented favorites and recents, which became the more popular, right?
Do you mind if we ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Go.
Is there a way you could have done like an online or paper questionnaire before you went through this?
So in lean methodologies, we have what's called currency. We talk about currency all the time, which is what is the biggest piece of information you can get from somebody that validates the fact that they really like it in the smartest way, that validates the fact that they will use it, right? Online polls and questionnaires are usually the weakest form of currency.
Right, that's why I say paper. If you're
Right.
at university, you could have maybe had some friends, just pass out things at the bus stop, and you would have presumably not misallocated your time.
Exactly. So you can, and those kind of things. This is all before. Thankfully, like you guys know this now, and people are being really informative about. I didn't know any of this, so I had to go through this alone. But yes, I think that's absolutely legitimate. I would say that there are more clever ways now of trying to get that information. Another big thing is users don't really know what they want either, right? It's just one of those things that they think they know, and then as soon as they interact with it, it's a completely different story. So even with a questionnaire, that's why it's considered one of the weaker forms of currencies. With a questionnaire, even when they say, oh yeah, I'd really like to be able to see what stops are nearby, which sounds completely legitimate, I think, right? And nobody uses it because who knows, right? It's just one of those things. That's why in this talk, I'm focusing less on exact UI elements, and Chris will go into some more of those later, and more on how to collect this data and how to slap your sense into you and say, listen, you're not going to get it right. Just get it out there, okay? All right, here's another graph of total visits on the app. This is just interesting data to know. It's pretty obvious, right? You can see, these are all students who are using it. So you can see this is spring break, right? Here's summer. Here's summer's session of studying dropped. And here people come back again, right? So it's good data. It's expected data. But what's really important here is this bigger spike right up here. slightly higher than the rest of the spikes. It's right when people come back to school, right? For some reason, it goes a little bit higher. People are interacting with it a little bit more at the beginning of the school year. So that's a drop-off, right? So you can measure that. You can plan for it, and you can execute on it. So once you have an app, and this was the crappy version of the app where everyone was using the alphabetical version. There was no favorites, no recents, or anything like that. I saw this data, okay? I looked at it, and I said, okay, it's going up right after summer. I'm going to release like one feature in the summer, which was the favorites list, which is super simple to implement. And I'll put that in there, and we'll see what happens. And boom, favorites list became instantly the #1 thing. People were like, oh, there's a new feature. People were talking about it because they're like, oh, it does this now, right? Took advantage of that spike that I knew was coming right when the school year started. And right after breaks, you see the same spike too, right? And tracked it and implemented a new feature. Now, for all I knew, favorites could have totally flopped and sucked, right? But I took advantage of the fact that I knew the most eyes were going to see it, so my data was going to be the most powerful, most statistically significant. All right. So we talked a lot about doing and testing and collecting, and Chris is going to talk a little bit more about simplifying.
All right. Thank you, Rohan. Simplify. Albert Einstein at one point said, any intelligent fool can make things bigger, more complex, and more violent. Michael Bay movies, perhaps. But it takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. So you can see what happens when you add to something that might already have found its happy medium, these being some artists' alterations of the Statue of David, one perhaps having too much high fructose corn syrup. But let's talk about the actual David itself. And Michelangelo, when working on his sculptures, he said he would already see the vision of what he wanted to create in the block of marble. And he wasn't adding on to the marble, right? So he said, I would see it there, and then I would just take away all the pieces that didn't look like it. So he would be focusing, honing more and more, bit by bit, until he had only the essential parts, only the anatomical features and veins that evoked the David, only the gaze, the contrapposto, all the different components that made up David, which is arguably the most famous statue in the world, or one of them. But Albert Einstein also said, make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. So, there is a line. If we were to take some bits out of the David, might be good in a modern art setting, but might not have gone over so well with his contemporaries of the Renaissance. So let's look at some examples of some calendar apps. These are all on iOS. Look at some different interfaces. So we look at this first one here. We can see that it looks very much what you would expect from a desktop calendar app, but kind of squeezed in to this very narrow interface. And these different events, I would say they're fairly hard to read because they're going down this little vertical slope. And you have some different colors that helps make the events pop, sure, but like the core thing you want to be able to see at a glance isn't necessarily as straightforward as it could be. It's not as simple as it should be. Here we have the native iOS calendar. So here, if we had some events here, it'd be great. You could see exactly what we're focusing on in the here now, which is one mode and arguably one of the more popular modes you would engage with the calendar. And you have some all-day events here. Granted, those kind of get cut off a bit. And you have different modes of interacting with kind of different scales of time. So you can jump from day, you can jump to month, right? Let's take it a step further. So now we have on the left here, it's an app called Sunrise. And here you have your weekly view at the top, and you can jump to different days just with a single tap, right? But you also see your day view. And it also scrolls to be current at the point of the day you're at. But it also does something more. So it does, unlike our first example, here you have the text is written out to take full advantage of the screen real estate. You can read this. It's legible. You don't have to tilt your head sideways. You also have icons that represent a lot in a small package that otherwise you would string a lot of words together. You know instantly that this is at a Facebook event, or that this is a concert, has musical notes. Or I know that I was going to talk to Rohan about this presentation because his wonderful, incisors are gleaming back at us. But I think you can go also too far, where you look at this last example here, and so we've stripped away a lot of the color. It's arguably a very beautiful app, but I would also argue that it's not immediately clear, where you're supposed to look and where to start, right? In the middle section here, you have, like a couple different events, but there's no sense of where they fall on the relative spectrum of time, like something that I think we've seen is potentially valuable, and there's no way to jump easily up and down that scale. And also, it's doing some things that are just kind of unnecessarily complex, right? Like look at this. Look in the top left corner here. It has the time, and the day. Well, in the context of actually viewing this on your phone, at the top of the screen, you already have that black bar that gives you the time, right? This is it's like they had an extra square in the corner and they didn't know what to do with it, and so they threw it up there. It gives you the weather. Okay, the weather's good, but how many times do you look at the weather in a day? And is that something you need to see with this much prominence when really what matters perhaps is more the events? And here you have a random headline. This didn't particularly appeal to me. I don't really care about high heels. Maybe they are worth the pain. Maybe they aren't. But I didn't need that in a corner of my screen. And maybe some people want to be tracking this particular part of the NASDAQ. But the point is that while it simplified the aesthetic and the look, and it brought down the color scheme, it complicated the number of things going on at once. And those two, together, I think, makes arguably one of the least functional screens we've seen. So let's talk about focus and ways you can bring that about. So many of you are probably familiar with modal screens. Whenever you go to a site, you'll have a little pop-up, maybe with a little X in the corner. There'll be a login, and it creates a sense of depth. And sometimes, if it's animated, it creates a sense of motion, and it draws your eye right to it. The things you can do with high contrast, color, and again, playing with modals, you can do create a kind of a theater setting, and it's also there are also ways to kind of weight things on the screen based on the priority of use. And let's look at some examples. So this was the original. Actually, this was the original The Facebook. This is before they got the good advice to simplify the name. And you can notice that there are kind of two different parts of the screen where you want to interact directly. You have a register and login box on the left, and you have kind of another register and login box here, which I guess this one is supposed to maybe more dramatically grab your attention because it has the bullet points of what is this new innovative social network, but it's embedded right in the screen, right? And there's nothing that really says in this blue and white maze of things that this is where we want you to look first. We want you to look at this box and not this box, this register and login and not this other register and login. So let's jump a little further forward in kind of Facebook's development, the upper left here. So here is a kind of when Facebook first started introducing modal windows. And here, suddenly it's using depth, you can't even, it's actually obscuring your ability to read what's behind it. So okay, I need to focus on this. They create a little border around it, creates a little additional contrast, right? Because you have a blue and white on blue and white isn't necessarily the most contrasting palette, but they added a little bit of a shadow around it. And then you see the bottom right where they are now, where suddenly, now you expect a voice to boom, don't spoil the movie by adding your own soundtrack. We're at this level where you're in full kind of theater experience. Another point, hiding the inactive. So when we were looking at that interface earlier, here on the right, there's a sense of what is relevant now, and what I want to look at once and have it then kind of creep away. Once I know what time it is, unless I'm like really diligently seeing how long this guy up here is taking, and if he's running on time, I don't need to be looking at that. Once you've figured out whether to put on a rain jacket or not, are you really going to be checking the weather every few seconds? It's kind of one of those set it and forget it kind of things. You register it in your mind, it doesn't need to be there. So let's go back. So thinking about what things need to be ever present on your screen and which things need to be present for a short while and then can step into the background. And think about how this plays between different media forms too. Because if you're on a desktop, there'll be certain things where you hover, it shows up, and it disappears again. But on mobile or on a tablet, you don't have those hover effects, right? You tap, and it's a different effect. So understand that the way you design these things is going to differ from one medium to another. Think about the context, and this is something that can be even on mobile. I mean, you can think about something where you tap and a form expands, and then you tap again and it can collapses. So there are ways to get around the constraints or the limitations of one mode or another. But just be thinking about that actively. So here's an example right from the desktop version of Twitter. And so this is Senator Klobuchar, one of the people who's been pretty active in the current immigration reform debate. And if you were to hover over her post, suddenly all the actionables show up. Reply, retweet, favorite, more. Okay. It works. It kind of, you don't really need, if you're just reading it, you don't necessarily need to see that. It shows up when you hover. You could take it or leave it either way, but it doesn't impede it at all. A lot of people are familiar with the OS X desktop for Macs. And though you can choose to have this up, I think the default setting for this bar with your apps is that it hides itself away. It maximizes the screen that you can use. But with all of this, there becomes a kind of a challenge where it's not always, all this or all that. Sometimes reducing the number of inputs to get from one point to another, the number of taps, the number of clicks, is kind of at odds with decluttering the screen. So it's like, do you have more information on the screen and they see it all at a glance, or do you kind of increase the number of steps? And what is that balance? So here, we see the Twitter on iOS, and Twitter on iOS, there's no hover feature because it's mobile. There's no kind of, if you tap the post, it doesn't expand or collapse a drawer. But it's also just as easy for it to slide over to this new panel, and on this next screen, you get your retweet, your reply, your favorite, etc. And think about trying to fit all this information about this Bostino article, on that screen. It just wouldn't work. Or you would see that one tweet and all the information about that tweet, and then you'd be wearing out your thumb scrolling down to see all the others. So the idea is you see a bunch of tweets at a glance, or at least a reasonable number. Here we see 3. And in this case, Twitter chose to add another input rather than cramming all that information in. So now to the rule of white space, which is going to take us down memory lane with a online application that some of you might have known as Google Mail before it became Gmail, another simplification. So here's the original Google interface. And you'll notice that, especially in this top section here, they'll have these separations that they're using these strips of color. You have labels, there's kind of a green outline. There's kind of this blue loop that goes from the inbox and then comes around here and loops all around to show you that all of this fits into inbox. And this is something that comes back to what we were saying about Michelangelo. Michelangelo, the focus is not on what you can add to clarify. It's what you can take away, making sure you know what is the minimum state of being before you even think about adding. So let's look at Gmail today. Granted, if Google had known this then, they might have thought, well, before we add all these UI elements, why don't we try achieving the same goal just by spacing it out? And is it really essential for people to associate that all of this is somehow coming from within inbox? Or will people be able to intuitively realize that? Or can you achieve the same thing by something like, oh, well, inbox is selected, we'll make that text red. And people will be like, all right, red it's drawing my attention, arguably, we're looking at the inbox. Or, when we're talking about weighting, the importance or the priority of things, what is kind of, what would you say the most prominent buttons on here are? Anyone want to venture compose, right? And it's big and it's red. I mean, and what arguably, if you're not reading, which, it's already on screen, right? What's the next thing you might do? You might compose something new. And it's right there. It's very prominent. It draws the eye. And it draws the eye so well because the rest of the interface is so subdued. The use of color is very selective. And because it's selective, when it is used, it has an amplified effect. So and here's another thought about relationship between pictures and words. Something we were saying earlier when Rohan was showing kind of that symbol that creates that fold-out panel on a lot of mobile menus these days. And he talked about it on Facebook, on Path, etc. That's something that it took a while for it to kind of catch on and become mainstream enough where you can kind of, be like, all right, we'll throw that in, people will get it. So what about, when you're not sure if people will get it? So here's an example of, this was an earlier version of an interface that Rohan and I were working on, is we were trying to come up with a way to allow users to build their own associations with icons. So this is in essence, it's a contacts app. It's dealing with your service providers, and the users we were targeting, the problem they would always run into is they like, oh, I need to call Susie, the babysitter, or what was that landscaper's name? And the name wouldn't come right away. Or their own kind of crazy, method of listing it in their phone book wouldn't necessarily come to them right away. Maybe, babysitter was listed as the last name. Maybe maybe it was like Anna Ped. Ped was short for pediatrician. Who knows what abbreviation, right? So what we were trying to do is think of other modes to build associations to quickly access things. So here, there are a couple things that work, and I'll get to icons in a minute. So here we built this. So you had this. This is a little pop-up window. Like main listing is just a listing of contacts. So it's just like seeing your inbox in Gmail. You can get to it right away. But say you wanted to jump to a certain section or a certain type of contacts. You can hold down. You have this little pop-up modal. Again, we're doing like the kind of movie theater effect here. And your focus is on these 6 hubs, each hub representing a different kind of category of contacts. But we don't necessarily say this falls into this hub, this falls into this hub, this falls into this hub. Yes, we might auto-sort some, but when you're adding your own, you get to choose kind of, well, this is what this means to me. So if I'm looking at my child's pediatrician, that might go under the icon that looks like 2 children kind of swinging each other around. It might go under medical. And you kind of choose the association that's more natural for you. And in that case, we're using kind of the user, we're employing them to work for us. And so when they go, it's going to be intuitive to them because it's the association they chose. And on top of that, to make it even more memorable, we're creating the spatial layout. So it's always going to be that icon is in that spot. And we're using this color association, so there'll be that reference too. And those colors percolate as a motif throughout the app, as well as the icons. So comes down to kind of where I want to close here, talking about kind of design trends that have been kind of very prominent in the media, most recently at the Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple, for those of you who have been who followed that. And I want to talk about flat UI and skeuomorphism. So for those of you who aren't familiar with skeuomorphism, essentially, skeuomorphism, it's using digital elements that resemble real-world objects. Anyone think of kind of an example and maybe an interface they've interacted with? Sorry?
Notepad application.
Notepad application and iPad, yeah.
Or your podcast, the last one.
Absolutely. And we'll see some of those in a minute. Anyone else? Okay. Also, flat UI. So flat UI is an emerging trend right now, which is rooted in this principle that I'm trying to hit home here, the principle of simplifying. Eliminating all this ornamental, fat, that doesn't resemble the David. We want to get to the crux of it, right? So what do we have here? Notepad app on iPad. I swear I didn't plant him. And this is kind of the counter trend, flat UI. So this is the Metro Windows 8 interface. And even more recently, perhaps piggybacking on a little bit, we have the new redesign of iOS that's coming out this fall, iOS 7. So on the right, we have the old Apple UI, and on the left, we have the new Apple UI. And just even at a glance, just seeing these side by side, you can see that they've removed a lot of the gloss, a lot of the shadows. They've simplified some of the icons a bit. Because a lot of these things, they weren't really necessarily adding anything to making it easier to use. Really all you need to signal with these little icons is that this is something you can tap. And once you're beyond that, it's something you can tap, and I have an association of what this could mean. That speech bubble has to do something with sending messages. You're adding all this extra information for people to process that isn't really necessary to get them from point A to point B. It might even slow them down. So there's a famous comic artist. His name is Scott McCloud. He wrote this book, Understanding Comics. And he speaks a lot about what it takes to communicate ideas simply or stylistically. And here, he says, when we abstract an image through cartooning, we're not so much eliminating details as we're focusing on specific details. By stripping down an image to its essential meaning, an artist can amplify that meaning in a realistic, in a way that realistic art can't, right? So just because you can create a realistic icon doesn't necessarily mean you should. And in doing so, you're not necessarily making a better experience. We can probably more readily recognize the expression of, the flatline smiley than we can, the face with kind of full chiaroscuro on the other side. And that's a principle that doesn't just apply to comics and faces. It applies across kind of UI. And at the end of the day, these simple illustrations, when you find that sweet spot, that's not the emaciated, sections taken out of the David, and it's not the overweight David either, that's what you want to aim for. So, to take away from this, is try to recognize when metaphors become unnecessary. When UI was first developed on, the early days, you had Xerox and Apple, right? You had this notion of Windows, and this notion of the desktop, or this notion of the trash can, and a lot of these things are still used today. But there are other things like the sketch pad or the notepad in the iPad, or like they had this game board felt, and all these other kind of elements in the last round of iOS that it was almost like they weren't having trust in their users' intelligence, and users, they want to feel smart, or they don't want to feel like they're being played to stupidly. So why add all this stuff, all this fat, all this flack, when you don't need to? And what I was saying before, taking away is that at the end of the day, the button is the ultimate metaphor. If they know they can click it, they can touch it, you're golden. It doesn't need to have necessarily a lot of other stuff from that. And how you determine, you can determine how you onboard someone, and you can determine, how readily recognizable a symbol is with or without explanation. Some things do take time to develop into a trend, like we saw with the fold-out drawer. But at the end of the day, this is where I interact. The key of user interaction, user interface, right? And also bear in mind that there are many other forms of kind of metaphor that you can use, not just, this visual use of shadow, of gloss, of things that look like leather. But you have physics, animation, sound, gestures, etc. For those of you familiar with, again, let's take out the iOS interface here, or maybe my phone is dead. But were you to press and hold an icon on the iOS interface, what happens? A little X shows up in the corner. So you have this little pop-up that grabs your attention. It kind of becomes slightly more transparent. So you're like, oh, something's happening to what's under my finger. And all the other icons, they start dancing around. And you're like, oh, they're not static anymore. Maybe they're movable. And it's an intuitive thought that maybe if I start dragging what's under my finger towards that, it's going to displace them. It's going to move them aside. And this is something that's built, through animation, through a notion of how physics works. These are all tools at your disposal, and don't forget that. And granted, none of us know all the answers, like Rohan was saying. And I think the important thing is that we don't spend so much time like in the boardroom kind of discussing, oh, it should be this, it should be that. Look to the empirical evidence. Look to see what people have already, they've already carved their way through these difficulties. You can see what we looked at with Gmail and what we looked at with Facebook. A lot of these people have already done the hard work. So don't make yourself, relive that whole experience. Learn from what's out there and get your stuff out quick and learn from that too. I don't know if Rohan wants to.
Yeah. I think Chris made a really good point there. Something I forgot to mention earlier, but people. So we in UI you get the habit of assuming like, okay, people are dumb and we have to make it really easy and simple for them to figure out. Okay, people. Granted, there are some dumb people out there, right? But there are some people learn, right? That's sort of like what UI is all about. There didn't used to be anything called UI. That Windows was a foreign concept to people, right? They pick it up, they learn it, and it becomes intuitive again, right? So don't assume that because you design something completely new, we're saying like, okay, ride on the backs of the Titans, right? But just because you design something new, that it's going to be impossible to figure out, right? So let's look at the polarized, the sort of the opposite spectrum of that. What does the save icon look like?
Floppy disk.
What is it?
Floppy disk.
It's a floppy disk. Do you think anybody who's been born in the last 10 years knows what the hell that is? But the save button is a floppy disk, right? Every kid who's growing up right now knows that that thing means save. They don't know what it is, right? But they know that means save. Okay? So people know, they build an association, and they move on. And so the big thing is to know that there's tons of things you can do to learn about what people have gone through before. And there's tons of things you can assume. But in the end, you just got to build it, and you just got to see how people interact. Not as much actively as maybe staring at them using it, as it is passively and looking at the data after the fact. And I think once you do that, you'll be able to teach us how to design UI, UX. So we can all learn, and it's not just us telling you what to do. Cool? Thank you very much. You guys have any questions?